Hi, this is the story of a wicked village of Osogbo, where the river used to sing, and of a man named Dada, who thought his cleverness was greater than his contentment. Also the story of Moremi, a daughter of the water, whose very tears held the shimmer of gold and the weight of a lesson. Welcome to Echoes from the Baobab Tree, where the timeless spirit of Africa comes alive through the power of storytelling. If this journey speaks to your spirit, help our community grow. Subscribe to Echoes from the Baobab Tree, share these stories with your loved ones, and add your voice to our circle. For as we say, a story is like a baobab tree, one hand cannot encircle it. Now, let's continue the story. The crowd's chant was no longer a request, it was a demand, sharp and hungry, cutting through the humid evening air. Cry, Moremi. Cry. And give us gold. Chief Adibeo, a large man whose voice boomed like a drum, led them. He pointed a thick finger at the creature trapped in the strong wooden cage by the river's edge. Inside, Moremi, the river maiden who had once brought them so much joy, curled into a ball. Her skin, which once shone like wet moonlight, was now dull. Her beautiful fish tail, the color of pearls and rainbows, lay still. The villagers, people she had called friends, now poked sticks through the gaps in the cage, their eyes wide not with wonder, but with a desperate, burning greed. Make her cry, a woman shrieked. A sharp stick jabbed Moremi's arm. A single, glowing tear escaped her eye. It traced a path down her cheek, dripped onto the dry earth, and with a soft hiss, hardened into a perfect, shimmering nugget of gold. The crowd erupted. They fell to their knees, scratching at the dirt, fighting each other for the sparkling piece of asaro. They were so busy gathering the gold, they did not see the terrible change in the river behind them. The water, usually a lively brown, was turning a deep, angry black. And from its silent, dark depths, a low, groaning sound began to rise, a sound that seemed to shake the very roots of the ancient Iroko trees. What had they done? And what terrible price would the river now demand? It had all started so differently, in the village of Osogbo, nestled beside the sacred Osun River. This was many rainy seasons ago, in the year the locusts came and left without eating the crops, a sign everyone said was good. The people of Osogbo lived in harmony with the river. Every morning, before the sun even peeked over the dense forest, the women would go to fetch water. And they would hear it, a soft, gentle hum, like a mother singing a lullaby to her child. They called it the singing river, and they believed its song was a blessing. If the hum grew louder near a farmer, his yams would grow as big as a man's head. If it followed a pregnant woman, her baby would be born strong and healthy. No one questioned the river's will. Life was simple and good. But everything changed on a cool, misty morning in March. A group of children, led by a brave and curious girl named Simedil, were playing by the water's edge, skipping stones. Suddenly, Simi screamed. There, tangled in the thick water vines near the rocks, was a woman. But she was not any woman. Her long, dark hair flowed like seaweed, and from her waist down, she had the powerful, shimmering tail of a fish. Her skin had a strange, beautiful glow, like glass held under the sun. Her eyes, when she opened them, were the color of the deep, deep ocean. The children ran back to the village, their voices high with fear and excitement. There's a woman in the river. A woman with a tail. Within minutes, the whole village had gathered at the bank. The noise was tremendous, drums beating, people shouting questions. Even Chief Adibeo came, his large belly leading the way. He pushed to the front and stared. She is no woman, he declared, his voice silencing everyone. She is Osun personified. A goddess from the water. The crowd gasped. They carefully untangled her from the vines, wrapped her in the finest white cloth they had, and carried her to a special shrine by the river. They named her Moremi, which means, the beautiful child has come. And from that day, the river's hum grew louder, as if singing a song of welcome just for her. And oh, What blessings she brought. Fisherman like Dada, who was known for being lazy and always having broken nets, suddenly found his net so full of fish he could hardly pull them to shore. His wife, Adesala, who had always scolded him, now smiled as she sold the fish at the market. Farmer's corn grew taller than any man, with 3 fat cobs on every stalk. Even the goats had twin kids. The whole village buzzed with happiness and wealth. Moremi couldn't walk on land for long, but she loved to sit on a smooth, flat rock, watching the children play. The children, especially Simedil, adored her. In the evenings, Moremi would hum her strange, watery songs, and the fish would leap from the river as if dancing for her. Chief Adebeo, a proud man, took all the credit. You see, he would say, slapping his chest so hard his coral beads rattled. The river rewards us for my good leadership. He ordered new huts to be built closer to the river to honor Moemi, though some people whispered he just wanted to control her and her magic. But not everyone was happy. A sharp-tongued fish seller named Ayarisi began to lose customers. Who needed to buy her smoked fish when everyone could catch fresh ones so easily? She grumbled loudly in the marketplace, "This fishwoman will leave one day, and then where will we be? Her magic is making us forget how to work for ourselves." There was also an old, kind storyteller named Bobatond. He was the only one who looked at Moremi with wonder, not greed. He would sit near her rock in the evenings and ask gentle questions. "What is your home like, deep down there? Do you miss your family?" Moremi never answered with words, but sometimes her songs would sound sad, full of longing for a world of deep, quiet currents and glowing underwater lights. For a long time, the village was a paradise. But slowly, a problem grew in the hearts of the people. It was a small seed at first, but it was a seed of greed. They had plenty, but they began to want more. A farmer didn't just want a good harvest, he wanted his neighbor's harvest to be better, so he could sell for a higher price. A trader wanted his goods to sell faster. The people started coming to Moremi not with gratitude, but with long list of demands. "Moremi, make my yams the biggest. Moremi, bring my son a rich wife." She would try to smile, but each demand, each blessing, seemed to take a little piece of her light away. Her glow began to dim. Her songs became quieter. One evening, as the villagers shouted their wants, she held up a weak hand. Her voice was a whisper. "The river gives what it can carry. If you take too much, the river will break." But the people didn't listen. Chief Adebeo stepped forward, his face hard. "The river gave you to us," he boomed. "You cannot be tired of blessing us. You owe us." The crowd cheered behind him. Marimi's eyes filled with a deep, deep sadness. The next morning, she refused to come to her rock. She stayed in the deeper water, hiding from their endless hunger. That was when the trouble truly began. The blessings stopped. The fish disappeared. The corn stalks grew thin. The people grew angry. "She is selfish," Ayarisi declared. "She is hiding her power from us." The love they once had for Moremi soured into something ugly and suspicious. It was Dada, the lazy fisherman, who made the terrible discovery. One night, his stomach growling with hunger, he went to the river to complain. "Moremi," he whined, "why do you bless others and forget me?" Then, he heard a soft sound. It was crying. He crept closer and saw her, sitting on her rock in the moonlight, her head in her hands. She was weeping quietly. And as her glowing tears rolled down her cheeks and splashed into the river or onto the rock, they sizzled and hardened into tiny, perfect pieces of gold dust. Dada's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He didn't say a word. He waited until she slipped back into the water, then he scrambled on the rock, collecting the gold dust like a crazy man. The next day, he arrived at the market wearing new clothes and buying the best meat. When people asked, he just smiled a sly smile. "The river finally remembered me," he said. But secrets, especially greedy ones, have a way of getting out. Ayarisi, always watching, grew suspicious. She followed Dada one night and saw everything. Her heart beat fast with excitement. The next day, she ran to Chief Adebayo's compound, shouting for everyone to hear. Dada is stealing the river's blessing. He makes the goddess cry and turns her tears into gold. And that is how the entire village found themselves by the river that evening, their hearts turned from people to a hungry mob. Chief Adebayo, seeing an easy path to even greater wealth, gave the order. Build a cage. We will make her cry for all of us. The men worked quickly, cutting strong palm fronds and weaving them into a tight prison. They lured the weak and trusting Moremi close with kind words, and then they trapped her. They poked and prodded her until the tears fell. And as the first golden nugget formed, their cheers drowned out the groaning of the river. They did not care that her light was fading. They did not care that the water was turning black. They had their gold. And as that deep, groaning sound rose from the heart of the river, now louder and angrier than ever, it was clear that their happiness was about to be washed away forever. The groaning from the river was no longer a sound. It was a feeling, a deep, shaking vibration that came up through the soles of their feet. The wild cheers for the goat turned into screams of terror as the sky, without warning, unleashed a torrential rain. But this was not normal rain, it was as black as the river, and it stung the skin like cold needles. Chief Adebayo, his face smeared with gold dust, stared in horror at the water. The dark, silent river began to swell, rising faster than anyone had ever seen. It did not look like water anymore. It looked like a living, black wall, and within its depths, they could see swirling faces, the spirits of all the fish they had overcaught, the trees they had cut down without thanks, and their own reflections, twisted by their greed. "Run! Run!" someone shrieked. The wall of water crashed over the village with the force of 1,000 pounding drums. It was a cold, furious justice. It washed over the golden necklaces, tearing them from their throats. It scoured the gold dust from their faces and swept the golden nuggets from their clutching hands. The huts, decorated with golden flakes, were washed clean. The flood did not drown the people, but it humbled them completely, leaving them shivering, soaked, and utterly poor on the muddy ground. As the water poured back into the riverbed, it took every single speck of gold with it. The villagers were left in a stunned, silent huddle, their wealth and their pride gone in an instant. But the punishment was not over. As they looked towards the cage, their hearts sank even further. The cage was broken and empty. Moremi was gone. For 3 days, a heavy, sorrowful silence lay over Osogbo. No one sang. No one drummed. The only sounds were the crying of hungry children and the angry arguments of the adults. The river was silent too. Its gentle hum was gone, replaced by a sullen, quiet flow. The people were hungry, for the fish had not returned. They were ashamed, and they were afraid. Chief Adebayo hid in his hut, too embarrassed to show his face. Ayarisi, who had spread the secret of the golden tears, was now blamed by everyone. She sat alone in her store, with no fish to sell and no friends to speak to. The village was broken. On the 4th morning, the old storyteller, Boba turned, could bear it no longer. He stood in the center of the village, his voice tame but firm. "We have offended the river," he said. "We treated its daughter like a slave. We valued her tears more than her life. If we do not ask for forgiveness, this village will wither and die." At first, the people were too proud to listen. But their empty stomachs and their fear spoke louder than their pride. Slowly, led by the children like Simidil, they began to agree. They had to try. A solemn procession walked to the riverbank. They brought no fancy gifts, no drums, no cheers. They came with bowed heads and humble hearts. Chief Adebayo, without his fine robes, spoke first, his voice cracking. "Great River Osun, we have been foolish and greedy. We are sorry." The whole village joined in, whispering their apologies into the quiet air. They promised to never again take more than they needed. They promised to always respect the river and its creatures. For a long time, nothing happened. The river remained silent. Disappointment began to creep into their hearts. Had they failed? Then, Simidil, who had been staring at the water, let out a small gasp. "Look!" A soft, green light was glowing from the deepest part of the river. It rose slowly towards the surface. And then, Moemi emerged. But she was not the same. She was not the gentle maiden they had found, nor the sad prisoner they had caged. She was a queen. She sat on a throne of woven water lilies and smooth river stones. Her glow was back, but it was powerful and majestic. Her fish tail shimmered with new, stronger scales, and her eyes held the ancient wisdom of the deep. She was beautiful, but she was also stern. "My people," she said, and her voice was like the river itself, come but with great power underneath. "You were given a great gift, but your greed turned it into a curse. You wanted my tears so much, you forgot how to make yourself smile. You wanted gold so much, you forgot the value of a good harvest, a full net, and a happy child." The villagers listened, their eyes wide with awe and regret. The gold is gone. It has returned to the heart of the river, where it belongs. It will not come back. This is your lesson. The river does not reward greed. It sustains humility. It blesses hard work. It protects a thankful heart. She looked at each of them, at the ashamed chief, at the weeping Ayarisi, at the lazy Dada, and at the hopeful Simidia. "I will not live among you again. But I will watch. If you keep your promises, the river will sing again. The fish will return. The crops will grow. But if you ever forget this lesson," she paused, and the water behind her swirled ominously, "the silence will return, and this time, it will be forever." With those final words, Moemi gave a soft, sad smile to little Simidia. Then, she slowly sank back into the water. The green light faded, and the river was once again still. But as the villagers stood there, a new sound reached their ears. It was faint at first, then grew stronger. It was the soft, gentle hum of the singing river. A wave of relief and hope washed over them. They had been given a second chance. Life in Osogbo was never the same again. The people worked hard, fished responsibly, and farmed with gratitude. They never spoke of gold again. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, the children would say they saw a shimmering tail flip in the deepest part of the river, a reminder that Moemi was watching, and that the greatest treasures are not the ones that glitter, but the ones that bring true peace to the heart. Kindly leave with a like and press the subscribe button if you haven't.